Hi, this is Karl with a Relax, Focus, Succeed video, and today I want to talk about how you can probably get up every morning and do exactly what you want to do and be super productive. I always tell people that, I do so many fun things that I enjoy doing, and every day I get to get up and basically do what I want to do. When I'm in the mood, I write a blog. When I'm in the mood, I write a chapter of a book. When I'm in the mood, I make a video. And so I get to do a lot of that. Well, obviously, there's some detail behind that. It's not that I actually get to do anything I want. Here's what I mean. Basically, you, me, all of us are completely overwhelmed with an unending slew of email and chores and other people. We have meetings, we have all kinds of things we have to do. We have tasks we don't like and tasks we do like. So what do we mean when we say you can get up every morning and do what you want? Here's how it works. You need to think about the kinds of chores you have, whether it is something you like, something you don't like, something that's scheduled, something that's not scheduled, long-term, short-term, high priority, low priority. There's lots of ways to think about the long list of things you need to do. But that's the good news. First of all, make a list. A number one thing, have a list, literally, of everything you need to do. Now, there's a couple of pieces to that. I mentioned scheduled and unscheduled. What I do is I start by saying, okay, certain things have to be scheduled. Here's a thing that happens every Monday at 8 a.m. Here's the thing that happens every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Here's the thing that happens every Wednesday, right? Tick, tick, tick. Put the things that are immovable into your calendar. Now, when we talk about motivation, well, sorry, it doesn't take much motivation to go to a meeting. If there's a meeting on your calendar, you get to decide whether you're going to show up motivated or unmotivated, but you know where you're going to be Tuesday at 9 a.m. So that's the first kind of thing. It's sort of easy to put those onto a list and then look at things that happen once a month, once a week, once a year. Make a list of all of those things. So now you've got a lot of stuff from your list. Next, you have tasks that are what we call recurring. Recurring tasks basically get restarted as soon as they finish. In technology, a good example is regular monthly maintenance. For your car, you might have maintenance every 3 months or every 6 months or something like that. In your job, you have things that recur. Very often, there are things that have to be done once a month for financials or for a certain kind of workload. There are things that need to be done once a quarter and again once a year. Write up all those things, daily tasks, weekly tasks, monthly tasks. Now you got a whole bunch. So now you got your scheduled stuff and you got your recurring stuff. Well, then you have one-time things. Okay, so what are all the one-time things that you're only going to do it once, but it does have to get done? Try to make a list of those. I use an online tool. There are hundreds of them. Find one that works for you. I use one called ClickUp. Only because I like to work from highest to lowest priority, and it's got a priority system built in, so I can set up the priorities very easily. You might like Monday or Friday, or maybe there's another one for a different day of the week by now, I don't know. There's lots and lots of online scheduling tools. You could also use what we used to call a piece of paper with lines on it, right? But the goal is get your arms around all the things that you need to do. Now, I highly encourage you to use priorities because if you're working on the most important things you need to do, then you're always going to be moving everything forward from highest to lowest priority. That is a great way to be very, very productive. Okay? So the other thing you have to remember is this is an ongoing project. You're not going to be able to sit down and in 20 minutes write down every single thing you have to do. You're going to have to work on it. You're going to have to constantly be updating and fine-tuning that list. But eventually, you'll get a pretty good idea of all the things that need to have done. Some of these, like I said, are regular. Like I have to get out a newsletter for Relax, Focus, Succeed. I have to get out videos for Relax, Focus, Succeed. I have to get out newsletters and videos for my IT consulting company. I have to get things done for my training site, right? I've got a long list of things to do, and they fall into certain categories. And that's where you begin to get the juicy goodness of picking your own freedom from among these tasks. So thing number 2 is take your long list and divide it into categories. You might, for example, have, say, 3 different categories of attributes for each task. For example, how much do you like it? Is this something that you know you have to do, but you don't like it? Or is it something that you love and you would do it all the time, right? So for me, I don't mind doing financials, but it's not a heartthrob for me, right? It doesn't get me up in the morning. I don't wait for the day that I can run quarterly reports or monthly taxes or whatever. So every once in a while, I have to go and say, okay, what are all the financial things I need to do? What's the long list of reports that have to be run once a month, once a quarter, once a year? And I have to take stock of that. Some of them I like more than others. I don't like most of them very much, but they absolutely have to be done. Okay? So there's that. The second category might be something along the lines of how much brain power does this take, right? Some things you're like, oh, right? It's not difficult. It doesn't take a lot of energy. It's just drudgery. It needs to get done. Think about at home, the laundry. The laundry is a recurring task. It is actually never done, right? As soon as you think it's done, well, it's not done again. But it doesn't take a lot of brain power. It doesn't take a lot of time. You just have to make a point of taking laundry, putting it in the washing machine, and then waiting a while, and then putting it in the dryer, and then, leaving it sit there for 3 days, and then folding it, right? So you have to figure out when you're going to stick in those things that are fairly straightforward, don't take a lot of brain power, but do need to get done. Every job has these, not the least of which is cleaning your desk, cleaning your office, emptying your garbage, right? There's things in your office that are just busy work that do need to be done. So make sure that A, they're on the list, and B, you've got them categorized in that way. A third category would be priorities, as I mentioned before. So if something is super high priority, well, it should get done sooner rather than later. Some things have hard deadlines, and so as that deadline gets closer and closer, you can increase the priority, until it's high priority. Now, some things take a lot of creativity and they're high priority, and that means they fall into a special category of things where you literally have to be in the mood and set aside the time to do it, okay? So first thing is make a list of all of the tasks that have to be done. Second thing is to divide them into categories and have some sense of what kind of tasks there are. And within that, there can be many, many variables. You get to decide how you divide up your tasks, whether it is related to how much time they take, how much you enjoy them, so forth and so on. All of this requires you to spend some time sitting in a chair, thinking about your business, thinking about your life, thinking about what's important and what's not. Just thinking about it adds a certain level of clarity. Number 3 is the secret sauce. You need to set aside blocks of time. And by blocks of time, I mean unlabeled blocks of time. Remember how I said we got a thing we do Tuesday at 9 a.m.? Well, if you're lucky, you don't have anything to do before 9 a.m. except get caught up on email or delete a bunch of email from the night before. And then after that, after say 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, whatever your next block of time is, if you can set aside 1, 2, or 4 hour blocks of time, and I know that sounds impossible until you do it, But if you can set aside these blocks of time, that's not to do nothing. It's not to relax. It's not to take the day off. Set aside blocks of time, and then when that time block comes, you can look at the list of things that need to be done, and you can say, how much energy do I have? How much fun do I need to have? Well, was that a really horrible, stressful meeting and I just need to do mindless things? Or am I feeling creative? Like I was in that meeting and I was taking all these notes because I know there's a new thing we can do that will improve our business, right? So you've got these empty blocks of time and you have more things to do than you will ever get done. So when the block of time comes up, you get to sit and say, okay, let's start with high priorities. What am I in the mood to do in the next 2 hours? What am I in the mood to do? How much energy do I have? How much brain power do I want to use? What else is going on for the rest of the day so that I use the appropriate amount of brain power and focus and energy right now. And there are times when you need low energy, mundane things so that you are productive in that time, but that you are not doing nothing and you're not just relaxing. Your brain is relaxing because you're doing something that doesn't take a lot of brain power, but you're still moving things forward in the big picture. You're doing some of the things on that big list of things that need to happen. Remember that depending on how much creativity you need, you may need to set aside regular blocks of time for a specific task. A great example is with authors. I'm an author, and I generally try to write a book a year. Doesn't always happen, but when it doesn't happen, I assure you the next year, I set aside regular blocks of time. And when that time comes, when it says writing in that block, I sit down and I write. And I might write a bunch of garbage and tear it all up and throw it away. But I sit down and I write, and my brain knows in this block of time, on this day, every week, every day, I write. And so I try to write every day, but when I'm behind, I set aside blocks of time, and that is the writing time. And it hurts to not do other high priority things on my list because I know that they're not getting done when I'm writing, but it is good for me in the long run because I know the writing has to get done. In the big picture, if I don't write, well, then I don't have a book to sell next year. I don't have another class to teach. I don't have articles for my blog, for my podcast. I don't have things to put onto the video, right? On and on and on. So the writing feeds much of the rest of my system. You have something similar in your business. It might not be writing. It might be something else. But you have creative things you do in your business. You need to make sure that you set aside the time for that. The bottom line is when I say I get to do whatever I want every day, what it really means is I am making choices. And it's always easier to get work done when you have a choice to make and you can say, oh, I could do A or I could do B. I'm choosing A for these reasons or for no reasons, but I'm choosing A and I'm going to be productive. I'm going to move that project forward. And therefore, you will have more energy in those moments. Now, big important note on motivation. When we talk about getting things done and moving projects forward, you have more willpower in the morning than you do in the evening. You have more willpower to get work done and to develop good habits in the morning than you do in the evening, even if you're not a morning person. When you wake up, you have recharged your batteries, and as they get lower and lower throughout the day, your motivation gets lower and your willpower gets lower. So just keep that in mind that you might want to put these blocks of time earlier in the day if you're going to be creative and later in the day if what you're doing is more mundane work. So think about how you can integrate all of it into your schedule. With luck, you'll figure out a system where you can every day get up and say, what do I want to do today? And you will make choices you'll be more motivated and more productive. If you have comments or questions, please send me a note. I'm happy to have them. For Relax, Focus, Succeed, this is Karl Palachuk, wishing you the best of luck in everything you do.